What's good? What's good? What's good, fans? My man up there in the Northwest, you see, he broke out the Mariners cap. I don't know what that's all about. He broke out the Mariners cap. He doesn't do it too often, but he got the Mariners cap on today. And there you go. We got my man, Mr. Eric D. How you doing, Mr. Williams?
Well, I like that one too,
E. I'm doing well. Good to see you guys. Yeah, I'm rocking the Steelheads today.
All right, we're going to get the show started just like this, fellas.
Am I speaking to right now?
Cameron.
My name
Cameron.
is
Cam Buford.
I'm a Dolphin fan.
There's always room for improvement.
This is a big year for Tua to prove that he's a franchise quarterback.
I'm more a fan of boxing. Boxing is my main sport.
As a competitor, how much does that competitive spirit get in there and say, I want to fight this guy. I want to get some of this guy.
Of course, I want to fight all the guys. Of course that. But at the same time, like I keep telling you, it's a business.
Talk about that loyalty for a moment. I'm standing there to try to make a change. Give back to the youth, give back to my community and show them that there is hope that you can make it out. Only thing is you just got to be dedicated. You got to keep your head down and stay on this course that you're heading towards.
Think about it like this. The promoter pays the fighter. The fighter pays the manager.
Okay.
So the manager works for the fighter, and the fighter works for the promoter.
Okay.
If you can see, you can believe.
So you are lifting weights currently?
When he said it's easier to score in the NBA versus Europe, did you agree with them?
To me, it's easy to score all over the world.
Aaron, what has the game of baseball taught you?
One of the biggest things is being humble.
Can you give a message to the kids to kind of persevere through the false teachings they may be giving?
Patience.
Okay.
Patience.
As the show voice of the fan,
Oh my goodness!
continues to
I'm in
evolve.
tears.
You were adding some spice to it.
It is strictly banter back and forth between myself and Cameron Buford.
I enjoy all of it.
The real ones know what's going on, right?
Like you said, Pacific Northwest. So I think it's a big part of my game. And every time I step on the floor, I just want to represent myself.
You play this game and you don't turn to win a championship, then why are you playing for?
I'm happy for the Mariners. I'm happy
Yeah,
for the whole
yeah,
championship.
Ken, nobody.
Never mind.
Go watch the tape. Go watch the tape, and then you tell me if it was all about just a system.
You look like a buffoon.
Go do your research. Go do your study.
Oh, this guy.
That's what's good in sports, man. It's Big Snoop Dogg, man.
That's what's good in sports. Hey, man, thanks for making our voice your choice. You know how we do. Yeah.
What's good, fans? Thank you guys for tuning in to the Voice of the Fans podcast. This is week 252 of this iteration of the Voice of the Fans podcast. We got some NFL talk. We're going to get into some NBA, Team USA. We got some Pac-12. My goodness, Pac-4, the 4-pack. I don't know what's going on. But we're going to talk about what's going on in the Pac, whatever it is. We got some Major League Baseball to talk about. The Mariners actually going to make the podcast this episode. And we're going to finish it off with some boxing today. But first of all, I got to give a congratulations, a shout out, a welcome to my man, longtime friend of the show, Mr. Eric Williams of Fox Sports NFL reporter. How you doing, Eric?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate having me back. It's good to see y'all. And it's good to see the old school M's hat that Cleve is rocking.
It's very sparingly, Eric. We haven't seen that a lot this season. I have you know, but man, don't say it's great to have you back. Like we've been avoiding you or something, man. You a busy man.
I wasn't gonna say anything. I'm just saying it's been a minute.
Yeah,
so
did I
do something or?
Nah, come on, cut it out, man. You got to clear out your schedule for us, man. You've been busy. Talk about your summer, man. You've been up in Canton, Ohio. I see you went and visited the Hallowed Land, the Hall of Fame. How was that your first time visiting the Hall of Fame this summer, or had you been there before?
No, it was my second time going to Canton. This trip was special because I had my son Isaiah with me, who's just starting college, so he got to experience it as well.
Dope.
So it was cool to just kind of see, through his eyes, to go and walk through everything and just kind of see all the different history that was there. I was there covering the USFL, went to Memphis a handful of times as well. So yeah, you're right. I was busy this summer, and now that training camps have started. I've been busy as well. I've been up to San Francisco to see the Niners just when training camp started. Was at the Rams last week, and now I'm actually in Arizona. Just went to Cardinals practice today.
Okay. How the Cardinals looking? Or is Kyler? Is he starting the season, or is he still injured, hobbled, or what? How's the chart?
He's still working his way through. He was on the sidelines jumping rope and throwing a little bit during practice on Wednesday. He's still on the PUP list. We'll see if he continues to be on the PUP list at the start of the regular season. But they're going to take their time with him. They want to make sure he's right before he gets on the field.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're not with Kyler. I hate to say it, with or without Kyler, they're not in playoff contention. So
it's spring training for everybody. Everybody is 0-0 right now. Everybody believes that they can get to the playoffs. So let's not kill their hope yet. Let's at least let them play a game.
I mean, well, we got to tell the truth here on the Voice of the Fans podcast. I mean,
yes, we do.
They're not only are they in a tough division, but they're climbing up the hill this season. So their vision is tough. I mean, they got the Niners to deal with. They got the Seahawks to deal with. Who, I mean, it's a top heavy division because they're going to be competing with the Rams. And just my honest assessment, they're competing the Rams for the bottom of that division there. So we'll see.
No doubt, Cam. I mean, obviously, the Niners went to the NFC title game last year. The Seahawks went to the postseason and they're probably going to be better than they were a year before. But, I mean, they're not like the NFC East or the AFC North, which I feel are stronger divisions than the NFC West, which had 3 teams make the postseason, I think, 3 years ago. So it's not to the level of they were a couple of years ago. But you're right. They do have some strong teams to contend with and a rebuilding team in the Rams.
When we're talking about tough divisions, man, I didn't hear you say the AFC East, and you can't leave those guys out of this, Eric. Now, come on.
Yes, the AFC East. I think the Dolphins are in the division, correct?
Yeah, they just happen to be one of the favorites in that division. There just so happens that might be the case. But since you're in the NFC East world right now, let's stay on the NFC West, excuse me. And about those Niners, let's get it right out here in the front. Any reason Brock Purdy is not the starter of that team this season?
No. I was stunned at the arm velocity that he had watching him throw the first day of practice 4.5 months after having surgery on the Tommy John ligament. I mean, he looked like the same dude last year. So that, give him props and credit for being able to work through that rehab and get to the point where he's on the field right now, and definitely the unquestioned starter for that team. And if he plays like he did last year with all those weapons, they had Hargrave defensively, who looked unstoppable in training camp. So they're upgraded defensively. They have all the pieces, to contend for a Super Bowl if they can stay healthy, which, has been an issue for this team in years past.
Yeah, well, health is an issue for everybody, as we know. But I've been trying to tell my partner, Mr. Eric, on the show for 2 consecutive months. It was 6-1. It was 7-1. It was 8-1. I'm asking him if he believes in Brock Purdy yet, and he still, even going into the playoff team, had no belief in Mr. Brock Purdy. So, Mr. Cleavon, now that you heard it from the experts, do you have any faith in Brock Purdy and the San Francisco Niners winning that division this season?
Those are 2 separate questions, Cam. With regards to Brock Purdy, no, I'm still not sold. I don't think the body of work is extensive enough to extend him the rope that he's been given. I think that, unfortunately for Trey Lance, it's been an unfortunate set of circumstances with regards to injury and what he hasn't been able to show what he can do on the field. Mm-hmm. And I think it's still very much a conundrum as to why you would pick someone with a second pick in the draft that's never, ever had an opportunity, a legitimate opportunity to start.
He had an opportunity. He had an opportunity. He did have an opportunity.
Certainly he did. And when he won the starter position, he got hurt, and then he's lost his position to injury.
He got Wally pipped.
Yeah. So that they feel like, what they were able to, accomplish with Purdy at quarterback is sufficient enough. However, the league has a way of catching up with you if you're not really who you say you are. And 9 games into it, I'm not 100% convinced on what he can do. I still think that the San Francisco 49ers are a vastly different team, playing from behind, adverse playing with the lead, even with that great defense and that great running game. If you're expecting Brock Purdy to come out and get you 10 points in the fourth quarter, question mark for me still.
I think those are all fair questions. So you're right. I mean, it's like 9 games. It's not a full season that we've been able to see him do this. So I think the jury's still out. But one thing I will say is, unlike Trey, Brock played 46 games in college, and I think that's a huge thing for him going into where he's at. Just because I think he's used to being in that situation a little bit more than Trey. Trey not only didn't play very much in college, but he played, Division I AA. He didn't play against the same type of competition. Brock played in the Big 12. So I think that's why you see maybe the disparity in terms of being able to handle those high intensity moments that you're going to see in the league. The reason I say that I'm in on Brock is because I just feel like he's unflappable. Like, he's already dealt with a lot of adversity in his career. He was the last pick in the draft. He had to fight his way to where he's at now. And it means a lot to him, because to come back for what he came from, which was supposed to be a 6-month recovery, and do it in 4.5, Brock doesn't want to be Wally Pitt. He already knows. Exactly. He already knows whoever you throw in there is going to do work because the team's so good. Right. So he doesn't want to give these other guys like Sam Darnold and Lance an opportunity to go in there and light it up. And then now he's kind of sitting back, and it's money too, right? I mean, he's on a 4-year deal. He's only going to make $870,000 this year, so he needs to get out there and play in order to earn that next check. And they, talking to people within the organization, they do trust him. The players love him. The players think he's a baller, kind of like they felt about Jimmy G, before he moved on. They have a lot of confidence in him when he's out in the field. But you're right, Cleavon. Like, he's only did it for 9 games. He has to go out and do it again this year. And I wouldn't bet against him.
Yeah, I think his stability, and he's not spectacular. He's not Dan Marino. I'm not going to even question that. But just the experience and the ability to lead the team, I think he showed that over a couple months into the playoffs. He didn't do this for the first 2 months of the season. He did it during the critical 2 months of the season. That second third, that third of the season, when your teams are playing for playoff positioning, that's when he showed he's able to play the game. So into the playoffs, obviously before the injury, he showed to me that he's a baller, as you mentioned, and can play. So that's why I have faith in Brock Purdy, and I believe he should be the starter. Trey Lance, hey, big guy. Work hard in practice. That's all I got to say. Is
I do agree with Cleveland, though. I don't feel like they gave Trey enough of an opportunity to really show what he can do. He did get hurt.
Wasn't he supposed to beat out Jimmy? If he was that good, he would have beat out Jimmy.
He started in front of Jimmy the second year. He was the guy, but then Shanahan ran him up the middle and he got hurt. So I didn't agree with the way that Shanahan used him. I thought he ran him too much. But the reason Shanahan ran him a lot is because he didn't feel comfortable with him, using the full inventory of the offense. So, I just feel like it's best for Trey to get an opportunity with another team to kind of show what he can do, whether that's, Minnesota going back home or, I'm not sure where that opportunity is going to present itself. But, I think he needs to get to move on and go somewhere else.
Wow. I think that's a whole. We could do another show on that alone, but that's a tough call for now. You don't make it in one spot. Who essentially they gave up the house for him,
right?
And then you didn't really produce there. Now you're talking about. Minnesota sounds like a good spot, because how long can Kirk Cousins continue to play as consistently as he's been? So
I believe Kirk's on the final year of his deal. I have to look that up, but I think this is the final year, that big deal that he signed initially when he joined the team.
Yeah, I doubt he'll be signing that big of a deal next time. But how long can he be? Still, Minnesota would be a good landing spot, because again, how long can Kirk continue to be as consistent as he's been for a team? And they're looking for something, the bigger, shinier object.
And it's a similar offense. It's that kind of that McVay Shanahan offense that that they run there. That Kevin O'Connell runs there.
Also, let's stay in the division. Have you been to Seattle yet?
I have not been to Seattle. I'm not going to make it up to Seattle until the season opener against the Rams.
When you okay, so I'm sure you watch them from afar.
Mm-hmm.
I've been pleading with Carroll from afar actually to get a third receiver in the group, and they finally got one. They drafted a third receiver this year, and what do you know? However, I think this receiver will be moving Tyler Lockett to slot and actually be filling that second spot. Do you agree with that?
I think they can move all three of those guys all over the place. I think that's kind of the beauty of it, because I think, you know, Jackson can play inside or outside. I think he's probably best in the slot, though, when you watch his game, because he's sudden and he's got a little bit of size to him. Look at Keenan Allen and how he plays slot at 6'2". You know, I think Jackson can do similar things as Keenan can. You know, I'm not saying he's going to be Keenan. He's a little more explosive than Keenan is, but I don't know if he's as good of a route runner as Keenan is. Keenan's special as a route runner, but he has some ability to make plays, you know, after the catch. I think we saw that at Ohio State. And I do feel like, you know, obviously you can play Lockett and slot, but you can flip them and play them outside as well. I just think it gives them options. And I think, you know, just as important as that pickup is the kid out of UCLA, Zach Charbonnet, giving him another back there. You don't like Charbonnet? Have you watched him?
I seen a couple UCLA.
Hey, I watched this guy up close. I went and watched Washington play at UCLA, and they couldn't tackle this dude. I mean, they were just getting knees in their chest.
Who did you say? You watched them play who? You watched them play who?
I watched them play University of Washington in the Rose Bowl. Hey, Washington, are they not? Is Washington not a good program? What are they ranked preseason? I think they're ranked 10th.
Okay.
I mean, it's not like they're playing a Mountain West team.
I want to see it. I need to see it. I need to see it in the preseason. I need to see. I
scored like 38 touchdowns in college. I mean, come on now.
I need to see it. I need. That's when I definitely need to see him in the pro game.
Wow.
Obviously he played. Obviously he got the ball. He was. But he transferred. He'd been like 3 different schools before he actually made it.
That's the nature of college.
Now it is too. I mean, again, we'll get to that conversation later on in the show. But he was at like 3 different schools, so he didn't come out as and shock the college football world. But we'll see.
Cam, he doesn't need to be the guy. I mean, they have Walker already. He just needs to be a part of that group. You know, that's how they were going to use Penny last year. They weren't going to give Penny the ball 20, 25 times. He was going to get 10 to 12 touches a game and do the most that you can with those touches. I think that's going to be – they still have DJ Dallas there as well, and then they have this McIntosh kid who they like as well. So they have a pretty good stable of backs there. You know, Pete wants to run it to take pressure off of Geno in the passing game and you know, keep the defense off the field. So I like where they're at offensively. Obviously, they're better on the O-line too. They're probably better. They're better up front than they have been since they had Okung and Unger and those guys back with those Super Bowl teams. I think they're finally got to that point where they're legit up front.
Yeah, Pete is ecstatic about what's going on. I heard him talking on NFL Network today, and he's all giggles and he's giving out gifts and everything. Yeah, he's ecstatic up there. They're popping the gum. So Cleveland, that ought to tickle you that somebody else like Charbonnet, huh?
Well, thanks, Eric, for pointing out the performance against the University of Washington. I saw that same one. And by the way, Cam, that was a 10-win team last year. And like Eric said, top 10 this season. So it's not like he was just running over some scrubs. It was a formidable team. Again, 10 wins. But you know, the running back depth, they needed to add to that after losing Rashard Penny and then another free agent in the running game. But I really feel that the third receiver was a big thing. But
you agree? Now all of a sudden you agree with that theory. All of a sudden you agree with that. I spent 3 seasons telling you that.
Well, I mean, given the fact that it wasn't like a de-escourage, which we tried to do in the past, and you know, already some issues, and never was really fully able to get healthy and be on the field. This is legitimate, you know, could have been, you know, and perhaps some other drafts a top 10 pick. So getting that type of productivity from that position is one thing. I think the Seahawks really come down to whether that pass rush is really legitimate and what to do with that very crowded defensive backfield, because it seems very crowded and convoluted to me right now. I don't really think that they have a real clear vision as to how that's going to eventually shake out and unfold. So until they do that, I think it's still kind of an influx and a work in progress.
I'm not really worried about the defensive backfield because guys are going to get hurt. It's the league. And that's how things are going to get cleared up. Dudes are going to go down. Guys are going to fill in and find their spots naturally. I really like putting Devon Witherspoon in the slot because he's so physical. And I know he's going to be a thumper in the run game. And I feel like he's quick enough to cover, guys in the slot and be able to hang with them. And along with that, I feel like he'll be a good blitzer. You can send him off the edge as well because of his ability to get guys down the ground. So I really like the idea of having a playmaker at that position, whether it's slot defender or the star position in that defense. When you watch somebody like Derwin James, in a similar defense with the Chargers, Jalen Ramsey would play the star position for the Rams. Again, it's that Vic Fangio defense. More and more they're trying to get their playmakers inside where all the action is instead of having them on the outside where you don't have to throw that side, and they're kind of wasted out there.
Let's we talked about the running back for the Seahawks. This running back scenario all off season has been kind of wild. Now we have Jonathan Taylor. How do you see this Jonathan Taylor situation playing out? He asked for the trade, and then they said, "Well, we'll put you on the PUP list if you don't like it. If you don't like being here, how about that?" How do you see this situation playing out?
All it takes is one team to reset the market in terms of running back and to see value there. I don't feel like he had any other choice but to come and do this with the way that things were going in terms of guys being franchised and not feeling like they're getting their value. I mean, running backs touch the ball more probably than anybody, any offensive player on the field. So I don't, I understand that there's a large supply of guys that are coming into the league that can do similar things. You look at Pacheco and what he did. Obviously, Austin Eckler as an undrafted rookie has had a great career. But that said, there's only so many Bijan Robinsons. There's only so many elite guys. Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry. Those guys are not a dime a dozen. Those guys are kind of like the top tier receivers. The top tier receivers are getting paid. Tyreek Hill's getting what, 27 million, something crazy.
Right.
I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, what did he get? 10, 12 million?
Yeah.
I mean, DeAndre, he's on the downside. I mean, I like him as a player, but I don't really feel like he's a guy that's going to go out there and catch 100, receptions a year, and you're giving him, legitimate money. And a guy like Josh Jacobs, who led the league in scrimmage yards.
Say it again. Say that again. What did he do?
Led the league in scrimmage yards. Can't get his, can't get more than 10.1 million a year. So I think it's cyclical. I think at some point one running back's gonna, reset the market, and then once that happens, salaries will go up. And then you're also seeing teams run the football more than in years past. I think last year was the first time in several years where running attempts were up. And so, again, I think we're seeing kind of a reemergence of teams wanting to run the football because of that Vic Fangio defense where you have two high safeties and you have a light box.
I think I pointed out, Cleveland, remind me if it help me remember this. I think I pointed out a couple of weeks ago. This has obviously been a hot topic, especially on this show. 60% of the Super Bowl winners over the last 20 years, was it Cleveland, has had their winners in the winning Super Bowl. They have led the game in rushing. So we know rushing the ball is critical to wins. And how this teams have devalued this position is beyond me. It's beyond logic, I should say. It's beyond logic. It's not beyond me. I see the owners see, like as you mentioned, there's a wealth of people out here who can do it. And if we have 2 or 3 guys to do the job of one, why not pay 2 or 3 guys instead of having one guy do it? But I looked at your list, Eric, that you just pulled out, posted recently. The number 2 running back on your list, the number 1 running back happens to be a guy that somebody claimed would be no more than a special teams player, Eric. I just want to point that out. The number 1 guy on your list you had was Christian McCaffrey. My partner, 5 years ago, said he would be no more than a special teams player. I was baffled. He almost got kicked off the show with that comment there. He redeemed himself recently, but he almost got kicked off the show. It was coming out of college. I mean, who thought Christian McCaffrey was going to be a special team player coming out of college? Absolutely ridiculous. However, the number 2 guy on your list is itching for a contract. In 3 or 4 years, he's gained over 1,000 yards. The last season, as you mentioned, led the league in yards from scrimmage, and he's can't get a deal. Like when you say it only takes 1, if the Raiders aren't the team who don't have a legitimate quarterback, who only have who they do have a pretty good receiver, but they will depend on. I should look this up. What percentage of yards did Josh Jacobs account for the Raiders of their yards per game of the last year? If a team like the Raiders aren't going to overpay for somebody who give them production and a young kid at this would be his 5th year in the league. We're not talking about a Derrick Henry who's approaching 30. We're not talking about a guy like LaDainian Tomlinson who ran the ball scored 28 touchdowns in 1 year. What his 28th, 29th year old as when he was with the Chargers. We're not talking about a guy who has an abundance of yards on him, like abundance of yards and carries on him. We're talking about a guy who's in his prime. If he can't reset the market, who's going to reset the market?
Yeah, those are all interesting questions. Look, I think it's a couple different things. I think one of the things is the league is paying the quarterbacks a lot of money. I mean, when Daniel Jones is making $160 million, then Daniel Jones is kind of an average quarterback, and he's making a lot of money. And so because teams have to pay guys like Daniel Jones, and you got to pay the edge rusher, and you got to pay the receivers, you got to pay those perimeter players, you have to take away that money from another position. And right now, really, it's running backs, it's middle linebackers, it's tight ends that aren't making as much as. Look at Kelsey. Kelsey should be making way more than he's making, but he's classified as a tight end instead of an X receiver. So he's limited into what he can ask for because of the position you play. The other thing is we probably need to get to the point where we're a positionless offense. We're more concerned about just production and not where the production's coming from, whether it's running back or receiver or tight end. It's all about the yards and the touchdowns. So Cleavon looked like you want to say something.
Yeah, so quick question, Eric. Do you think that this is a situation where the analytics paint a distorted picture of what the running back position is really valued at? And because there is such a fear of that precipitous drop once you turn 30, that it's hard to differentiate between what is good and what is great and what is super and what is special. And therefore, they just think that everyone is somewhat interchangeable after their 4th or 5th year in the league as far as running the ball?
I think the analytics are important because they do kind of point to the fact that you can, in some instances, go out and get a guy late. The analytics also point to the fact that it's probably better to get a guy on his rookie deal and pay him once he gets out of college, because those are kind of the prime years for a running back. And once you get to 25, 26, and you've already played 3 years in college, now another 4 years, getting smacked in the league, obviously your production is going to decline. So that's part of it too, when you talk about the analytics portion of it. That said, analytics and trends are always changing. And I think we as media members are usually behind the trends that are happening because they're happening in real time. And then we don't start noticing it until later on. And so I think you're right. It's been kind of analytics driven, but those guys in those GM offices are always looking for an edge. And that's why I say, you're going to start seeing teams run a little bit more, and that might affect how running backs are valued in the next year or two. Maybe that changes because of that.
So I asked LeVar Arrington this question, the same exact question, what about the NFL running backs being devalued? And he made a very interesting point when he said, ever since they started focusing on the 7-on-7 and developing these 7-on-7 leagues, that kind of pushed the running back kind of away, because that's not a league where the running back can shine, because it's 7-on-7. It's a passing league. So, and that made a lot of sense. And we've seen a lot of 7-on-7, and that's where these quarterbacks are kind of coming from, right? These 7-on-7 games kind of get rid of the ball quickly and what have you. So that was a very interesting point that he made. And like, I'm hoping to see one team pick up one guy and kind of change the market, because I think that they're doing it's a disservice to that specific position.
I mean, let's be real, Cam. I mean, we're both old high school running backs. So we're both speaking from that right. position. Yeah. Facts, when we played high school, the best athlete usually was the running back, and you could play whatever position you wanted. We chose to play running back because the running back was getting the ball the most. I mean, that's what it was. And you're right, because of 7-on-7, it's changed a little bit. They're playing receiver now, and it's forced running backs. You got to go out there and play receiver if you want to get your touches. So it's really changed the skill set of the running back.
Yeah, it has, and that was very interesting when he made that point. Does Zach Martin, does he get a new deal before the season starts? Do you think? Do you anticipate that, or the Cowboys holding strong on that one?
It doesn't look like Jerry's going to open up his pocketbook when you see some of the comments. I feel like he feels like, hey, I already paid you your money. We're good. I got to take care of these other people now before I circle back and take care of you again. But Zach has an argument. I think he's the 7th highest paid guard. He's certainly higher than that if you think about his ability. And so again, I just feel like these players, it's a business. They see it and they're like, well, hold on a sec. Like, I need to be up here where I should be. And I think they're asking earlier instead of later on getting these contracts renegotiated.
Yeah. Eric, I have to do it for the fans, and since we got you on the show and I haven't had this discussion with you, I have to ask for the fans' point of view. I'm really sick of having this discussion, and I'm kind of getting tired of hearing this particular individual talk about this topic. And that's Micah Parsons and his comparison to LT. Now, he did say the other day that the LT comparison is grown or overblown, excuse me. And he went on to say he wants to be the best of the Hall of Fame. Well, how do you feel about the comparison to LT? How do you feel about that?
It's good to talk about. I mean,
I'm about sick of talking about it, actually.
He's a really good player, and he should aspire to be the best. And LT was the best. I mean, he was the best edge rusher in NFL history. I mean, who else do you want to put up there with LT in terms of what he could do as not only as an edge rusher, but just as a mean, angry football player back in the day where you could do stuff that you could not get away with in this era.
Today. That's true.
There's no way you could get away with the stuff that he was doing. So I think, for people that grew up watching LT, or you get in your feelings a little bit that you're actually making the comparison. But, I think it's good for guys like Parsons to be aware of the history of the league and be, he's not comparing himself to Von Miller. He's comparing himself to LT. I think that's kind of cool, to be honest. And that's, but, we kind of get in our feelings a little bit as curmudgeonly older guys that, it's I guess it's like the Michael Jordan argument in basketball, right? we don't want anybody saying they're as good as Michael Jordan because we saw greatness up close. I got to see Jordan play a couple different times when I covered the NBA, and those were special nights because you knew you were watching one of the best players, if not the best player in the NBA. So I just think it's just pushback from middle-aged guys that they kind of want to keep those guys up on their pedestals, I guess, when you think of somebody like LT.
Yeah, I don't think there's any comparison to LT. By his second year in the league, he had won 2 Defensive Players of the Year awards. So I mean, what
and four total.
Yeah. So what are we talking about?
Right. So I mean, if Aaron Donald was saying it, you'd be like,
yeah. There's a different argument there. Aaron Donald's put years into the league and consecutive years of being dominant. Where I mean, this is a young guy who And it might be the media. It might be the media kind of overblowing it as well by asking me these questions. But I think I think we got a lot of years to go before we can legitimately have that discussion.
Yeah,
I want to ask you, one of the things I do want to know from you is kind of what are your top storylines going into the season. But before we get to that, there's a couple of things I want to point out. And Deshaun Watson versus Russell Wilson, like, who has a better season going into next year?
Ooh, I'm gonna say Russ because of the coach.
Because of the coach.
I think Sean's gonna put Russ in good situations and kind of get back to the bread and butter players that he was successful with when he was with Seattle. Deshaun, I'm still kind of, I'm waiting to see. I don't know. I'm not sold on the coach. So I think that's my issue with Deshaun is I don't know if that coach is going to put him in the best situations for Deshaun and the offense to be successful. So we'll see.
Oh, good point. Cleveland, you want to comment on that?
No, I basically agree with that. I think that the situation that Deshaun Watson would have been in a couple of years ago had a lot more explosive weapons around him. I don't really see the explosive weapons around him that Baker Mayfield had a few years ago. I think that's what they were trying to do, is that their solution was to just interject a really good quarterback in that same position with those same players and have different results. Unfortunately, the NFL is fast moving, ever changing, and once the musical chairs stop, it's not quite the same team. I think Russ was extremely embarrassed about the results of last season. And the way people kind of admonish him and kind of walk by him, Jamal Murray not even acknowledging him in the finals when he stuck his hand out was kind of like, oh, and they didn't even want to show the quarterback on the big screen. Every team does that. I mean, every city does that, right? So he's kind of like in this prove it year. I think he has a better season than Deshaun Watson, given like Eric said, better coaching, more structure. And a lot of question marks and uncertainty with regards to anyone other than Nick Chubb having an impact on offense for Cleveland.
So what's a good season then for you guys expecting a rebound for Russ? Well, what's a good season for Russ? I mean, they're still going to be third in the division, and even at their best. At their best, they'll be third in the division. What's a good season for them?
I think a good season for Denver's 9-8. If they can get to 9 wins and get close to a wild card. I don't think 9 wins is going to be enough in the AFC because there's so many good teams. But if they finish above 500, I think that's a win for Peyton and that's a win for Russ. Kind of restores his credibility a little bit.
Okay. And the same question for Fields or Love. Chicago versus Green Bay. Does any way that Green Bay has a better
I think Fields needs to stop talking. Like there's just too much stuff. I mean, the whole idea of, I don't know, being an MVP, like let's win some games first before we start talking about, winning an MVP in the league. I mean, he ran for a lot of yards. He didn't really throw for a lot of yards.
Right.
And they didn't win a whole lot of games. So I just would like to see him, play well. Obviously there's a lot of pressure on Love because he's following Aaron Rodgers' footsteps. and because of them moving on. And the jury's still out on Love. We don't know if he's good or not. We'll see. But I like Love's supporting cast better than I like Fields' supporting cast. And the lineage of Green Bay quarterbacks obviously is much better than the lineage of Chicago quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, Justin's obviously very talented. It's good to be confident, but just some of the stuff that you read that he's been saying, and then you hear the reports that he doesn't sound like he's playing very well during training camp. You have to be concerned a little bit if you're a Bears fan.
Not knowing him or the situation at all, I think he's more of a gamer. Because I wasn't expecting a whole lot out of him coming out of college, and I think he's shown that he can turn it on game day, and for whatever that's worth. But like as you mentioned, you made a great point. I think Love has a better supporting cast that'll allow them to be a better football team. The Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears coming up this season. So we'll see how that plays out. Are you sold on Rodgers and the Jets? Are you sold on them AFC East champions, Super Bowl contenders? Are you sold on them? Yeah, me neither.
You want to be. You want to be sold. I mean, everybody tells us that Aaron Rodgers is great, so he's got to be great, right? I mean, he's won 2-3 MVPs.
How long ago was that?
He's got a Super Bowl win. I mean, that happened a while ago too. Yeah. My concern with Aaron is when you need Aaron to ball out, he doesn't seem to do that. He seems to do the opposite. When you look at what's happened in the playoffs the last couple of years, it's been
last year to get into the playoffs. Last year to get into the playoffs. Yeah.
Whenever you need him to kind of put the team on his shoulders, it doesn't happen. And so now in New York, where there's going to be a lot of eyeballs, and they got weapons on offense. I mean, they got dudes, and their defense is legit. I mean, the only thing that was holding them back last year was, the quarterback and what was going on there, which wasn't great. So they should be better. But as you mentioned, the AFC East is competitive top to bottom. There's not going to be any easy games within your division. Belichick, they're going to be ready to go defensively when they face Rodgers and make it hard for him. Buffalo's really talented, and you're going to have to be able to score with the Dolphins. Dolphins going to score points, and defense should be better with Fangio. I don't know if I believe in the personnel, but I do believe in the coach and the scheme, and they'll be ready to play.
Interesting. Cleveland. Tell Eric why he's wrong, Cleveland.
Oh, sure.
Cleveland's been a Jets fan. I'm surprised you didn't have a green hat on today.
Not. Hey, slow down. Completely sold on the Jets winning the AFC East with Aaron Rodgers. If they get Dalvin Cook, they should legitimately have Super Bowl aspirations.
Yeah.
Everyone always talks about this team with regards to Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson and that offense, but this team is built through their defense, and it's better than good. It's actually top 5, and their coach understands where his bread is buttered, and he always defers to what the defense is going to do, pumps them up, lifts them up, lets them know for all intents and purposes, it ends with you, and we get what we get from that offense, but we win or lose with you, and now they've upgraded that position. They upgrade that running back position as well. It's going to be a problem.
I mean, let's be real. Robert Saleh looked like Pete Carroll Jr. on Hard Knocks. I mean, he was saying all the same stuff that Pete was saying. And, he spent time in Seattle as the linebackers coach, assistant linebackers coach when he was there, when Gus Bradley was the defense coordinator. And a lot of Pete seemed to have rubbed off from him and how he handles media and how he handles his players and how he kind of motivates them on a regular basis. I was really impressed with him in the first episode of Hard Knocks and his presence. And I really felt like he had a presence as a head coach. And you don't always see that from head coaches when you go and you cover different teams. And so, I agree. The defense can be a top 5 defense. I don't know if I would put them there yet. I know they played really well last year. Would like to see them, put another year behind that. But I do feel like with Rodgers, they're going to score more points, and so it's going to make their job easier.
Thank you, Eric, for throwing some cold water on that.
That was lukewarm, Cam. I mean, what was so chilly about that? That's basically said the same thing I said.
No, it wasn't actually. Eric, so talking about presence, it's been a long time, man, since we had you on the show, Eric. I'm just realizing that all these topics that are bouncing in my head, it's been a long time since we had you on the show. And we can't go this long without having you on the show again because you bring so much reality to the show. So now, when you talk about presence as a coach, Eric, when you talk about creating the culture from a coaching standpoint, Mr. Williams, do you feel the coach for the Los Angeles Chargers has done that? Do you feel he has created a culture of winning? And where do you see this? Not the ceiling is not the right question. Where do you see this going now? Now we're in year 3. Or are we in 3? Now this is year 3. So this is kind of we've been through the rough turmoil, right? We've been through some of the turmoil already. You got your learning curve is over.
Cam, this is the Chargers. There's gonna be some turmoil, bro. But let me say this: I like Brandon Staley. I think he's a good coach. I think the problem is he's a first-time head coach, and so he's making a lot of mistakes that first-time head coaches make, both in setting a culture, in-game situations, and how he's handling personnel. So he's learning on the run, and I think that's kind of been the problem with the Chargers. Since I guess you can go back to Schottenheimer. I mean, They've always hired first-time head coaches. They never bring in somebody in that's done it before, that has already been in that situation. So they're constantly, having a coach that's learning on the job. And so it is what it is. The quarterback's legit. I like them bringing Kellen Moore in for the offense. I like Kellen. Kellen can coach. Kellen can coach, and he can coach a lot of different types of systems. And the cool thing about Kellen is he can adjust week to week, based on the scheme and the defense that they're playing. And I think players are comfortable with him as a play caller and a person directing their offense. And I think Justin is comfortable with him, which is most important.
That's the most important. But I don't believe the issues were Lombardi's fault last season.
That's what I was going to say. The issue is the defense, and the head coach is a defensive head coach. So you can't have a head coach and the side of the ball that he coaches is struggling.
Problem.
Yeah. I mean that should be the strength of the team, not the weakness. But it's the defense.
Well, and I thought their inability to run the ball then that was injuries. Once their line kind of broke down, that was injuries to key people on the offensive line. But their inability to run the ball hindered their success last season.
They never replaced Melvin Gordon. When Melvin and Austin were together, I mean they just worked well because Melvin could hit all those in between the tackles and they could run Austin. And they just never, Justin Jackson was supposed to be that guy, but Justin couldn't stay healthy.
Yeah. Quentin Johnson, is he going to be better than Josh Palmer has been for them? Because I thought Palmer has been really good for them. I didn't think they needed a receiver when they drafted Palmer. I see now that they needed another guy to when Keenan or Mike goes down. But yes. Is Quentin, is he going to be better than Josh Palmer has been for them?
I don't think he needs to be better than Josh Palmer. I think you just mentioned it. Keenan missed 6 games last year. Mike Williams missed 4 games. So those guys are going to miss time. They're getting older, and they've had trouble playing a full 17 games. So basically, Q is there to play X when Mike is hurt, which inevitably is going to happen, or to slide in there and play some slot when Keenan's hurt. So you don't lose anything from your offense. You're still able to go and do everything that you need to do offensively. I like him. I know he had some issues, catching the football at TCU. I think he'll clean those up with focus. I think he's special with the ball after the catch. The guy that's 6'4", 220 and has quicks like that is unusual. And Daniel Jeremiah compared him to Sidney Rice when Sidney was in Seattle, and I got to see Sidney up close, and his body type reminds me a lot of Sidney. Sidney was a hooper in high school as well, and he's really long and lanky like Sidney, but he's fast. Sidney was fast too. And those 50-50 balls, those were 80-20. Sidney always was able to get them. The problem with Sidney is when he landed, he usually landed on his head. And so, he's got to learn how to fall. But I like the pick.
Yeah, I think it'll work. I'm interested to see the Kelly offense. Just him come. I just couldn't blame what happened on their offense on Lombardi, and that's what it seemed like. Lombardi was a scapegoat, and it wasn't all Lombardi. They couldn't run the ball partially, and I don't know if that's. No, I'm going to say injury more so, because the mentality, you have to have that mentality. And I don't know if Lombardi didn't exude that mentality, that nastiness that you have to run the ball, or they just didn't have the players. What do you see from Spiller? Can Spiller be a big time back in the NFL? Because he didn't really do anything last year as a rookie. Although he started off, he had an ankle injury at the beginning of the season, which kind of set you back if you're not able to get off or hit the ground running. Do you see Spiller as an adequate fill-in to Melvin Gordon that they haven't found yet?
Maybe. I think you have to throw him out there and see what you have. I didn't like the idea of just not playing him. I think you made the draft pick, figure out a role for him and see if he can do anything for you. I think the issue with Spiller is pass pro. They have to feel comfortable that he's not going to miss a block and get the quarterback killed. And so when you watch, one-on-ones pass pro in training camp, he does struggle a little bit. And so, can he get better there so that you feel comfortable getting him on the field for 20, 25 plays? Or when he's on the field, I guess you just give him the ball and see what he can do. But you got to get something from that number 2 running back role, and it can't be all Austin. Austin's not going to make it through the season.
Right, and I like Kelly. Kelly has a great smile, great personality. I just don't know how
he's been hurt too.
I don't know where you can take that guy. Looking into the Commanders, should we expect a rebranding of these guys here pretty soon? I think so, but
Really?
Ron Rivera, this Eric Bieniemy, this combination here. I mean, it's looked like they're having a little tussle right now of the coaching deal. What do you think? How do you see this playing out, or is this just preseason gossip?
It's hard to say, to be honest, Cam. I know that when Eric was in Kansas City, there were complaints from players from that team that they felt like he was a little bit too gruff. He's an old school coach. If he played at Colorado and played in the league, and that's his approach. He's no nonsense. He's going to tell you the truth. And sometimes players, the way that they've grown up, playing, are a little sensey, I guess. But the coach has to adjust too, right? As a coach, you can't just you got to adjust to your players and their personality. And so for this to come out like that, I don't think it's good for anybody within the organization. I don't think it's good for Eric. I don't think it's a good look for the players. I don't think it's a good look for the head coach. I don't know why he even brought it up, to be honest. He should have just kept that to himself. I don't think it helps Eric, and who already kind of has a rocky
reputation.
Yes.
That's why he didn't get hired in the first place.
Right. And so I don't think that's helping him in terms of, trying to be a head coach in the league and deal with these owners. So, I think at the end of the day, if Eric wants to be a head coach, he has to change. It's on him.
That's a good point you made. Well, the coach has to kind of adjust too. That was who had to make the adjustment? The Giants head coach. I'm having Fossil. Was it Fossil who had to adjust?
No, I think it was
Coughlin.
Coughlin, there you go. Before they won the Super Bowl, they asked him to make the adjustment. He adjusted, and they went on to win the Super Bowl. So great point right there. The coach has to make some adjustment there. What's your thoughts on Mike Vrabel announcing that he's going to let the assistant coach, Terrell Williams, coach the preseason games? Do you see this as not a replacement for the Rooney Rule, but a good? Obviously, it's a good move. Give that coach some experience. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't see it as a replacement for the Rooney Rule. I just think it's a good opportunity, no matter the color of the coach, to have the ability to serve as a head coach in a game and experience everything that you're going to experience and see others, watch you do it. You don't get many opportunities to do that. And they're always trying to evaluate, whether or not you have what it takes to be a head coach. And this is certainly something that he could put on his resume that he did, and they can go back and watch the game and see how he performed. So I think it's important for coaches in this situation to get the opportunity so they can kind of continue to prove themselves, and owners can kind of get comfortable knowing, like, a lot of owners probably don't even know who this guy is, but he's going to be on national television doing his thing. And so the exposure alone is going to help him once it comes time to be interviewed and those kind of things.
Yeah, it's another reason I like Mike Vrabel. He does a lot of things right as a head coach, and this is just another reason, another feather in his cap, if you will. Speaking of preseason, Eric, to play or not to play your starters? I mean, that's a huge question. What's your thoughts on playing starters? Should they be playing preseason games? Should they be playing quarters? Back in the day, they used to play one quarter in the first game, 2 quarters in the second game, 3 quarters in that last game. That final game would be kind of a dress rehearsal. What's your thoughts on playing? And should these teams – you don't want to get hurt. Obviously, injuries are part of the game, but using that as an excuse, I mean, you can get hurt week 1 to week 13. So it can happen on any game. So to say I'm not playing my guy so he doesn't get hurt, I think that ruins – kind of then that makes week 1 through 3 kind of your de facto preseason games, and you're kind of gifting those games away. Because if you come out and play in the preseason and you have your guys actually ready in week 1, then you have a better chance of winning those games while everybody else is kind of dicking around and trying to get comfortable. What's your thoughts on the preseason?
Yeah, I think I've kind of came around, and I agree with what Coach McVay has done and other the young coaches, which is we're not playing our dudes until the start of the regular season because we want to get to the season healthy. Initially, I think I was behind kind of the old school thinking that guys need to get the work and the conditioning and get out there and play, a quarter and then play, a half and come out there for the first series of the second half just to kind of get ready. But these guys have been training all year. They're in shape. So that's not really the issue. You have these joint practices so you can get that situational work that used to get done in preseason games in a more controlled setting where guys are less likely to get hurt. And it seems like every team is scrimmaging at least 1 or 2 other teams in these joint practices. So those are kind of replacing what used to get done in preseason games. So, I'm fine with just sitting the guys, making sure that they're healthy enough and good to go for the start of the regular season. If you start off slow, you start off slow. I mean, it is what it is.
You agree with that, Cleveland? I mean, you got 17 weeks as opposed to 14 weeks, which was the games, 5-6 years ago. You agree with that, Cleveland?
Very similar to Eric. I used to be very old school. I like that third game where you can kind of see what the offense and defense is doing, just so you don't get a false sense of security with regards to where you think your evaluation is with the team. And then that fourth game is just for those fringe players that may or may not make the team. You kind of figure that out. But the new element with regards to injuries and timing, I'm in favor of it. Just to keep those guys fresh and healthy. And the plays are somewhat inconsequential in preseason if you've already kind of evaluated and made those decisions. I think previously it was more with regards to if a player was going to make or not make the team. And again, just kind of that, like, are we who we think we are? And like, if you get out there and you think you guys are doing this, and then you get in that third preseason game, it's like, oh, we're not really who we thought we were. Like, okay, it's an opportunity to kind of assess where you are before the season starts. with the new way of doing things, you kind of don't, like Eric said, you kind of have to get off to a slow start to kind of see if you were right or wrong with regards to what your assessment was coming out of preseason, so you don't get that dry run. But I'm okay without the dry run, especially considering how many games they play and they haven't really increased the roster. So, yeah, you don't have those same positions or bodies, I guess, available in case something happens. You're playing more games, so not a lot of advantage to playing in the preseason, particularly.
Well, I'm not caught up to you guys yet. I do
real,
knowing
real
that
surprise of that game.
No, I understand that they do have these scrimmages more often. They scrimmage and have these control practices, if you will, more times leading up to their games. I agree with that. However, it's not the game. It's not the kickoff, and we need time. I need to see what Quentin Johnson can do. I need to see what Smith and Jigba can do against with Geno Smith as his quarterback. I need a better feel for that timing and practice. I haven't been on the practice field.
Cam, you'll see it. You'll see it week 1.
Yeah. But all the defenses on the other team was going to see that week 1 too. I need to have a better feel.
You'll see it with everybody else.
I see it with everybody else. No, as a player, as a coach, I think they need to have a better feel. I want to see these guys play. Give me a half. Is that too much to ask? Where you guys are getting paid upwards of $15 million a game? I can't see you guys can't play a half of a preseason game. Come on now, get out here.
They already played 17 games, bro.
Yeah, I mean 17. Cleveland makes a good point with them not increasing the roster size, which I think they haven't done yet. I'm surprised that hasn't been part of the collective bargaining agreement. I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet. But I'd like to see a little bit more play during the preseason games, and not just the guys who aren't going to be on the team. Me personally, that's me personally. Before we let you get out of here, Eric, would you tell us what are your top 5 storylines heading into the 2023-24 NFL football season this year?
Well, I think we already talked about one of them. I think how Brock Purdy performs coming off that elbow surgery is going to be one of the main storylines that people follow throughout the year. So I would put that one right up there. I'm interested to see how Jalen Hurts comes back from how they perform in the Super Bowl, and can they be the team that we expect them to be. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is going to be a main storyline, how he does in New York, and is he able to kind of lead that team to Super Bowl, a team that has struggled to make the postseason. So I think that's something that's going to be followed. The Dallas Cowboys are the Dallas Cowboys. People are always going to be interested in what happens with the Cowboys and Dak Prescott. So I will throw that up there. Number 5. I mean, I mentioned you could always throw the Chiefs out there, obviously because you're interested in Patrick Mahomes. I'm gonna go with Jimmy G. I'm interested to see what happens with the Raiders and if that's gonna work, and what happens with Josh McDaniels. Is this the same story all over again with what happened in the Raiders, or the Broncos when he was there and struggled to really kind of make what happened to New England, Belichick, happen in these other teams, or is he finally going to get over the hump with now his quarterback that he wanted, that he had in New England, leading that offense? So I'll throw Jimmy G out there.
Well, those are pretty good ones. Jimmy G, that's kind of down the line for me. But yeah, what happens to Josh McDaniels and the Raiders? That's a toss up, because as we mentioned, they're not going to have their bell cow back as it's down now. They're not going to have their big guy. And Jimmy G, does he go down week 6, week 7, week 8? Which week is it going to be?
I'm a Jimmy G fan, so I get it with the injuries.
I like Jimmy. I don't dislike Jimmy, but that's kind of the history, right?
All that dude does is win games, man.
Hey,
I know QB wins isn't a stat, but there's something to him.
So a couple of storylines. I too, can the Chiefs repeat as one? Do the Eagles avoid the Super Bowl hangover, just like you brought up there? Aaron Rodgers, I want to see how this ends. Well, I'm gonna say I want to see how this doesn't end well. I'm not sure how it's going to not end well, but I want to see how it doesn't end well. But two storylines that you didn't mention. My first one is how many games did Tua actually play this year? You got a prediction on that? How do you feel about that? Do you think the jiu-jitsu is going to help him stay healthy through week 15?
I'm gonna say 7 games.
Ooh, we get 7 games out of Tua. Oof, that might ruin my AFC.
Past
East
performance is usually a pretty good predictor of future performance.
Oh my goodness,
he's been hurt a lot already.
Yeah, I totally 100% agree with you there. And then how did Chargers rebound from that horrible playoff loss? Like, that was a terrible playoff loss. How did they respond? And this is what I don't want to wait till week 1 to see how these guys respond. I need these guys focused, man. I need these guys mentally prepared and what I don't like about this is not particularly the Chargers. What I don't like about waiting till week 1 is defenses are already. It used to be defenses were ahead of the offense. Now 7-on-7, everything's catered to the offense. The defense is not used to hitting and tackling. If you don't practice it, and if you don't practice, you're already not practicing that during practice because you don't want to get your guys hurt, right? And then these scrimmages, these joint practices, joint scrimmages. Once a couple guys get laid out, they're calling practice. They're stopping practice. That's not what we want. We don't want you guys laying guys out. So defenses need to be in the rhythm of hitting and tackling people. You just don't pick that up just because you've been lifting weights and you've been running wind sprints. You just don't pick that up in week 1. And so that's another reason I want to see. I need to see guys hitting. I need to see it.
You sound like Clint Eastwood and Gran Torino. These guys have been tackling people since they were 8 years old. They forgot how to tackle. Like, come on, man. Like,
they haven't tackled anybody for 6 months, Eric.
They know how to tackle dudes, man. They will figure it out. If they're coached well, they will figure it out. Now, the Seahawks had trouble tackling people last year. I don't know if they were coached, they're coached well going into it. I think they'll be better this year, tackling from the onset, and that's because Bobby Wagner said.
So one guy's going to change that, I guarantee
he's pretty good.
He is. I guarantee you, Bobby Wagner is not taking it easy on the opposing team in these joint practices. I guarantee that's not the case.
He's not bringing guys down to the ground though, and the Seahawks don't have joint practices. Pete doesn't believe that.
I thought they were just practicing. Did I not have it misunderstood? Didn't practice with who's practicing with the Ravens? Sorry,
the Seahawks.
Okay, all right. I may have that misspoken. Eric, we want to thank you for joining the show, man. Let the people know where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter, Eric_D_Williams. You can find me on Threads at EWNFL, and same with Instagram.
You should.
And you can find my work at foxsports.com.
Foxsports.com, NFL reporter, Mr. Eric D. Williams. I want to thank you for joining us. I mean, it's been a long time. We got to get you on the show. Whatever your schedule is, we got to work it out. Got to get you on the show. Come on, once a month this season if you can. Once a month this season. I'll send you. I got to send you like this request. I sent you 3 weeks in advance so you can schedule us in, okay?
All right. I got you.
Thank you for your time, big guy.
Right,
thank you for your
time.
Bro.
Take care, Cleveland.
All right.
That was Mr. Eric D. Williams setting you straight, Cleveland. Said your Jets are going to stink. They're coming in 3rd place in the division. That's what I heard. What did you hear?
Wow, I don't like the way that you chopped and screwed his words like that. That's not cool, man. That's not what he said at all.
I mean, that's what I heard.
I think he did say something about your quarterback in Miami, Tua Tagovailoa, not getting to half the season.
He said 7 games.
So you might want to marinate on that one for a little bit, but he didn't talk too bad about my Jets.
That has us out of the playoff mix, and that's not cool.
Yeah, no.
If that goes down, that's not cool.
And y'all haven't signed Dalvin Cook like he was supposed to, so yeah.
I mean, they got a trio. Around. They got a trio of backs, as we talked about. They got a.
I love my Husky running backs. I love my Husky running backs, but which one of them is better than Dalvin Cook?
No, neither one of the Husky. I don't think they made the squad this year. They're in the practice squad. They got Mostert, and shoot, I'm having a brain
Okay,
fart.
so
But
nobody that you can remember more than Dalvin Cook is what you're saying.
They need Dalvin Cook, but we're not going to pay Dalvin Cook more money than we're paying our other guys.
Well, then determine how much you want to win, especially if you had a quarterback that's not going to play more than 7 games.
Oh my goodness!
You'd have a strong running game.
I didn't like that.
What's the best friend of a quarterback?
I should have hammered on that one. I should have hammered him on that one. He said 7 games. I didn't like that breakdown.
7 games, and he's in the know.
Look at this guy. Yeah, you pass him up on fantasy football.
Washed. Wow.
You pass him up on fantasy football if you want to.
Where did he get washed at? Or when did he get washed?
Jeff Wilson. Yeah, you're right. There you go, Joel. Jeff Wilson is another running back down there.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We'll run that then.
Yeah.
In the AFC.
Again, we just can't pay Dalvin. Dalvin, he's going to want more money than we're paying the collection of our backs, and that's the problem.
We'll make some business.
If he wants to take a hometown discount,
make some business decisions over there. If you want to make the playoffs, otherwise you won't make the playoffs.
Yeah, man, I didn't like the 7 games. Eric, I didn't like the 7 games, man. I didn't like those 7 games. I don't like what that was saying. No, I think Dalvin was over 1,000. If I'm not looking at it. He might have been over 1,000.
Or very, very close. So yeah.
So your guy AD signs. AD signs a big deal. AD signs a big deal. Makes him the highest paid player in the NBA. Are you happy about that?
Happy for him.
Right now. So this is funny. If I had the game format, I would show this to you. One of these guys, I'm gonna name off the top 5 players by salary as of today. This can change tomorrow. The top 5 guys' salaries in the NBA right now. One of these guys don't belong on this list. One of these guys don't belong, and I'm gonna let you decide who it is. AD, as we just mentioned, he's at $62 million per. Jaylen Brown, we know he's at 60.7 per, right? Dame Lillard is right here at 59.9. Devin Booker, 58.7. And the guy tied with Devin Booker, Karl Anthony Towns, at 58.7 million per. Which one of these guys did not belong on this list?
That's clearly the other Kentucky power forward, Karl Anthony Towns, doesn't belong in that list.
Man, goodness. Anchored the best defense. Yeah. Best defense in the league, post All-Star break, and they got swept out of the playoffs. They got swept out of the playoffs.
And won the 3-point contest, at the All-Star weekend. So, that was
man.
Cool.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. How's dude making 58.7 mil
ownership? They decided to stay with Karl Anthony Towns and those guys instead of Jimmy Butler.
You need to talk to your boy A-Rod, Alex Rodriguez. He need to restructure some deals over there. Carry the Lakers to the playoffs in the second round. Okay, but was he on the floor when they got swept? Was he on the floor when they got swept? Help me out.
So
I don't recall.
Did you see that part carried the Lakers past the defending NBA champions in the second round? Did you catch that part?
No. My question is, was he on? You guys are ignoring. Was he on the floor when they got swept? When they got swept out the playoffs, was he on the floor?
It was all men. All men on board. Yeah, everybody was on board. Yeah.
So he was on the floor when they got swept.
Okay, sure.
And that's worthy of 60 mil.
Much more so than the Jaylen Brown
swept.
Yeah, much more so than the Jaylen Brown funds for sure.
Did you hear that part, Joel? You don't want to mention that swept part. You want to glossing over that. Give me all these stats. This is your guy. This is your guy, Cleveland, just statting us to death.
NBA champion, right? He is the NBA champion.
Can you say swept? SWEPT, swept. Can you say that one, Joel? Oh, okay. All right. My guy, Josh Hart, about to sign 4 years for $81 million with the Knicks. What'd you think about that deal?
Love it.
Josh is one of my favorite players in the league.
You want to know why I love it, Cam? Because it just goes to the irrational focus and perspective of the New York Knicks. Keep signing Julius Randles and Josh
20,
Hart and
20
Mitchell
20
Robinson.
mil, that's like average right now,
of millions of dollars. And,
that's like average. That's like
then
average
try,
in the NBA.
And then try and get past the second round of the playoffs.
I mean,
and then when you don't, give me some weird, lame ass excuse.
But that's like average. 20 mil in the NBA. Come on, that's average, basically, pretty much. I mean, I know it sounds like a lot of money.
It's average until you run out of cap space and you don't want to pay that double luxury tax. Yeah.
Best rebounding wing guard in the league.
Oh, that's great. Well,
I mean, he's a solid defender. The Lakers shouldn't have let him go. They had him.
Okay, Lakers had other priorities, and don't worry about the squad, man. Don't worry about what the squad's doing.
I mean, they'll be at home. They'll be at home in the off season.
Okay. Well.
What did they say? They traded for a first round pick. Yeah, and they didn't want to pay him. That's what it comes down to. The Lakers don't like paying those guys who actually produce.
Okay, well, don't worry about how the Lakers squad is shaking out. Okay, they're just fine right now. Thanks for asking.
AD. Yeah, that's a good. I guess that was a decent move to get AD. Team USA dominates Puerto Rico. Did you have to catch a glimpse of these guys the other night?
A little bit of cohesion there. I like the way what they were doing a little bit. Yeah.
Brunson running the court. You see how Brunson was running the show?
Great. Yeah.
Brunson running the show.
I saw a lot more Edwards kind of doing his
Anthony
thing.
Edwards doing it. Anthony Edwards is growing. He's grown into the position there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was close in the first half, and then they turned it up in the second half and just kind of ran away with it. Those guys is balling a little bit. I was impressed. I have to say. They're going to get Josh. My man didn't play though. Josh Hart didn't play in that game. No, but this is a JV. This is not going to be the Olympic squad, but this is just for the FIFA. I think this is cool. I was hard on them a couple months ago. I think this is just for the FIFA. I think this squad is good enough to win the FIFA. We'll see how things shake out. The Suns look like they're going to retire Shawn Merriman and Stoudemire's jersey. You good with that?
I'm good with the Amari and not the Shawn Marion's a little weird. Retiring that number.
Shawn, I can't even think of what Marion shot. What he was 31, was he? They went to the finals. They was in the finals with him. So no, excuse me. They were not in the finals, huh? They didn't make the finals, did they? Mm-mm. I was trying to give him too much credit.
That was the 93 team that made the finals. He was not on that team.
I mean, the Matrix, he was a Matrix. Shawn,
retired number? Nah, my dude. No.
I mean, it's not like Paul Gasol going up in the Lakers rafters, but for them, it's a decent retirement for the Matrix. I mean, he was a focused part of their team. Stoudemire.
Well, no, Paul Gasol won 2 championships. So that's much more feasible than Shawn Marion.
Stop. Don't give me stop. He was riding the coattails of Andrew Bynum and Kobe Bryant. Cut it out. Cut it out. Because I said it then.
Okay,
Paul Gasol.
I'm saying a Hall of Fame.
They should have put Paul Gasol. Paul Gasol's number should have been retired on the other side of the stadium. His number can't hang next to number 8 and number 34. That's an atrocity. That's an atrocity.
Champion has a much better, reasonable opportunity to get their number retired than someone that's never been to the NBA Finals before.
Again, Paul Gasol probably they should have. I mean,
and you're just being hard on Powell because of the lineage of the franchise, which I understand. 17 championships. I mean, his
number is hanging next to Kobe and Shaq. You cannot tell me that that's a legit. That doesn't look right. When I just said something up here doesn't look right. Somebody up here doesn't belong.
Okay,
that's Paul Gasol doesn't belong next to Kobe and Shaq. Cut it out.
Calm down. I'm just saying. You asked about Marion.
I mean, again, for the Suns, I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. Do you have an issue with the Orlando Magic? and their $50,000 donation to Ron DeSantis' political camp.
Yeah, that's not cool.
I mean, why did they think that was cool? Why did they try? How did they try to sneak that in there and be like?
I don't even think they tried to sneak it in. I just think that they were just being billionaires, doing what they do, supporting their guy, and didn't realize it was going to be this kind of a thing.
I mean, they really should be smacked for that. I mean, that. Come on, guys. They should be fined for that. There should be some kind of fine. I know it's difficult for Adam Silver to actually smack some guy on the back of the head, but they should be fined for that. That was completely. They put out a statement. Teams, governors shouldn't be using their funds, their team funds, for their political charges, but they should be smacked for that. I mean, they should be fined for that, and probably $150,000, at least 3 times or whatever that was. That was atrocious. That really was atrocious. So let's take a break here, man. When we come back, we're gonna get into. We got a lot to talk about when we come back, man. We got to talk about this Montgomery brawl. I don't know if you saw the Montgomery brawl, Cleveland, but this now becomes August 5th becomes a date in history with the Montgomery brawl. And then Cleveland, you got to explain to me what the heck is going on in Pac-12, man. The whole Pac. I mean, it's not even a Pac-12 no more. Right now, it's a Pac-4. You got to explain to me what's going down and the winners and losers of the college football. We're going to get into that. Cleveland, are you into Messi Mania? Have you joined Messi Mania at all?
Not quite just yet, no.
Not quite just yet? I mean, Messi Mania is I guess the circus is traveling the country. And we'll see how that goes. And then we're going to talk some boxing. You got a pick right a couple weeks ago. You got that right. So we're going to see your thoughts on some upcoming matches, where we go from here. And fans, I think this is the second time all year where we have actually some Mariners conversation. We're actually going to talk Mariners baseball here in a little bit. So let's take a break here, Cleveland. And we come back, fans. We're going to have the second half of the show.
Planning a vacation can be a lot of work, and you never know if you're really getting the best deal. Working with an Evolution agent and booking an all-inclusive resort takes the stress out of planning a vacation. Where else can you stay in high-end accommodations, eat at your choice of restaurants, and have fun, all covered under one cost? With an all-inclusive vacation, you can relax and have fun without worrying about the bill. And when it comes time to find your perfect all-inclusive, your Evolution agent is ready to help. Do you want a family resort with fun for all ages? Or an adults-only getaway for any type of couple? Your Evolution agent knows the best places to go, the best time of year, and what to really expect. Call your Evolution agent and let them do the planning for you. So all you have to do is relax and enjoy a stress-free prepaid vacation. Call today. They have access to timely specials that will end soon.
All right, sports fans, we got NFL season right around the corner. If you're planning to go see the Seahawks play anywhere in the country, Seahawks playing the Cowboys in Dallas later on this summer or later on this season, it's going to be a great game. The Dolphins obviously up and down the East Coast. I think they travel to the West Coast as well. Wherever you're going to see your favorite team play, hit us up. Let us schedule your travel. Hit us up at Voice of the Fans Travel, and we can get that done for you. If you didn't scan the barcode, shoot me a tweet at _Voice of the Fans, at _Voice of the Fans. Shoot me a tweet. I'll send you the barcode so you can get your travel plans made. Wherever you're going, any event that you're going to, hit us up. Let us help you with your travel plans. You got some decent accommodations for you. Anything out, even outside of that, if you want to go travel, take a train through Oregon, through Canada, through the mountains of Canada. We can put that together for you too. Train trip with your grandparents, or you guys just want to ride on the train from from Colorado all the way through to Vancouver. We can set up that train travel for you guys. Any boat cruises we can do for you guys. You want more information, hit us up at _Voice of the Fans. Hit us up at _Voice of the Fans, and just put travel. Just put travel at _Voice of the Fans, and we can definitely hook you guys up. Cleveland, Let's get into this week in history. Jesse Owens wins his fourth Olympic gold medal in the 1936 Berlin Games on August 9th, 1936. Alice Coachman wins a gold medal in the high jump during the 1948 Olympics in London, becomes the first African-American woman to win the Olympic gold medal. This is August 7th, 1948. August 9, 1941, J.B. Parsons became the first African-American judge appointed to the Federal District Court. August 9, 1961. August 11, 1965, the Roch Riots began out in Southern California. Over the following 6 days, 34 people were reported dead. 28 of them were Black people. 1,072 people were injured. 4,000 people were arrested during the Roch Riot, August 11, 1965. August 5, 2023, Cleveland. The Montgomery Brawl takes place in Montgomery, Alabama. Did you see the highlights of this? I mean, I say highlights. Did you see the remnants of this that happened?
I did see the fisticuffs, the brutality. It was very emotional, high-pitched, volatile situation.
The memes coming out of this were absolutely hysterical. I mean, the memes coming from this event, I don't know. Usually we don't celebrate. It's not often that these whoopings get celebrated like this, but the memes coming out that you see the Malcolm X picture with him looking out the window, and in this meme, he's looking out the window with the chair in his hand. Did you see that one, Cleveland?
I see that one.
Did you see the
You need to send me that one. That one feels like that's what I need to see.
Did you see the one? I should have had these queued up. Honestly, did you see the ones with John Carlos was on the gold medal when they had the black fist in the air, and they have the black fist and he's holding the chair? Did you see that one? I mean, come on! Oh my goodness, the memes coming out of this was actually hysterical. Did you? And the final one is the one. Did you see the one with? I don't even know how to portray the music. The picture was on Good Times. That's a historic picture though that was on Good Times with everybody dancing in the back. It's a painting with everybody dancing. I know you know what the one I'm talking about. The painting that was on Good Times.
Ernest Watson. Yeah.
They had the chairs in the picture. They had them dancing with the chairs in their hand. I mean, come on, man. The memes were actually, there was a couple more memes too, but those memes were absolutely hysterical in more ways than one. And I mean, they didn't stop. I had to turn Twitter and Instagram and TikTok off because these memes were absolutely just. They'll keep you up all night long. They will keep you up all night long watching these memes, man. But it was a historical moment that will not soon be forgotten. I'll say that will not soon be forgotten in the annals of Black history. Let me see if I can do this, Cleveland. Let me see if I can do this right here. Let me see if I can do. Let me see if I can do that. What was that picture called? You know the name of that picture?
The Ernest Watson print.
Is that what it was? Can you see that one right there?
Yeah.
This is the one I was talking about.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. That was how they got the chairs, man. Come on, man. In the Alabama Sweet Tea Party, like, this was another one. This was another one that caught my eye. Like, again, have a seat. 2023 versus 1955. Like, and then we had Aquaman, 16-year-old swimming to the party, swimming to the fight, right? Like
I did see the video of him jumping off the thing and then swimming in there. Like, whoa.
Yeah, it was wild. Like he was going for it. He was going for it. But those are some of the memes, man. Those are some of the memes. But the one, I'll send you the one with the fake Malcolm X holding the chair instead of the Uzi looking out the window. Like they was doing a whole lot, man. They was going for it. But that was historical Montgomery Brawl that just went down in Montgomery. I didn't even know, to be honest with you, I didn't even know there was a dock in Montgomery. I didn't even know there was water down there.
Yeah, but like, what body of water is that?
It's a little river.
I've been to Montgomery, Alabama. I visited a friend down there in Alabama State. How do you take me to no water, man?
Yeah,
I don't have any water down there.
I didn't even know. I'm trying to figure out where in Alabama that was. I didn't even know. So yeah, that was wild. That was really wild. That went down this past weekend. So that goes to a date in history, but fans. This is what we always look at this week in history, and that was something that just blew our mind. August 7, 2007. Cleveland, what happened on August 7, 2007?
August 7, 2007. Cam, what happened that day?
San Francisco Giants outfielder Barry Bonds hit home run 756 to break Hank Aaron's record. August 7, 2007. August 8, 1992, Cleveland. You know what happened that day?
August 8th, 1992.
1992, the Dream Team. 1992, Dream Team won the gold medal, Cleveland. What was your major takeaway from the Dream Team at that time?
My major takeaway was to really let the world know what the difference is between the NBA players and the rest of the world. Like where the difference was. 88 gave the world a very false narrative with regards to what the talent really actually was in the United States. And order just had to be restored with the Dream Team.
So, Cleveland, let me ask you this question. And the Dream Team obviously was the greatest collection of talent.
But that also being said, at the time, I did feel like it was like
it was unfair,
killing an ant with a sledgehammer. I did feel like it was like that, but I felt like it was necessary given how the 88 team left a very sour taste in everyone's mouth.
Yeah,
so they had to like overreact.
And how the world rejoiced. How the world rejoiced once they actually lost and Americans didn't win. Yes, so yes, killing the ant with a sledgehammer. I mean, yeah, it was needed at the time. They needed to come and redo it, and it was the greatest collection of talent. I mean, that talent obviously we haven't seen since, and it'll be a long time before we see that collection of talent. Cleveland. So you in '88 they lost the Olympics, right? Why is 1992 Dream Team get credited with changing the scope of basketball? And if Americans had already lost and the world was already catching up to the American game, why does that 1992 get credited for saying now they become the pinnacle of basketball? Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you understand
but it's painfully obvious because it put the whole world on notice as to what the standard actually really was and how high it really was and what they would have to do to even compete if they really.
But they already been they already been competing with the Americans.
Right, but they had been competing with collegiate athletes that would eventually get to become pros, not the greatest, not 10 of the 50 greatest players in the history of basketball. That's a whole other kind of a thing.
But it's not like they competed with that squad. They didn't compete with that squad. Nobody competed with that squad. Like what I'm saying is the world was already on the come. The world was already on the come. They already beat us.
But they weren't. But they weren't really marveling over the talent. It was like, that's cool. You sent your best college players over here. That's great. But once they got to see Magic and Bird and Jordan and Pippen and Barkley and Robinson and Ewing and Malone and Stockton and Mitch Richmond and Leitner, it was a different thing.
Yeah, it was certainly a different thing. I mean, like I say, it was
Clyde Drexler was on that team as well. Let's not slight him. Yeah,
I tuned in. I mean, at one point, it was just a massacre.
When you start beating Angola by like 80 points and that kind of stuff, I mean, that's unbelievably lopsided, right? Like, how do you?
It was a massacre.
Could have gotten to 100, and I still say, wow, when they sicked Jordan and Pippen on Tony Kukoc, wow, that was like a Rottweiler and a pit bull.
I know, right?
Against a 4-year-old in a corner, man, in the bathroom. That was inhumane what they did to him.
And why was Charles Barkley throwing elbows at Angola?
Yeah. Why be mean, cruel, and bullying? like we're playing pickup ball in Leeds, Alabama. That's like, no.
I mean, come on, Barkley. That was completely unnecessary. That was good.
Chris Mullen also on that team. Yeah.
I mean, the team was unbeatable. And like I said, we haven't seen a collection. I mean, these other iterations of the Dream Team, 2, 3, 2008, 2004. I mean, I don't think they had a chance. It wasn't. Let me see. I don't think
2008 beats that squad. Let's not get into that one.
Who, with Kobe and LeBron?
Kobe, LeBron, Tim, D Wade. Yeah, we don't want to go with that one.
Robinson, Barkley, Jordan, Pippen.
I mean, we'll have to revisit that one another time.
Well, we might have to have a Dream Team.
Melo's on that one.
We have. Come on, man. You think Melo? You think I'm gonna buy Melo when making a difference in that one? Come on now.
Okay. I mean,
Again, I said Scottie Pippen can guard any one of those guys. One of your starters.
We shall revisit
any one of your starters.
We shall revisit that one another time, my friend.
Okay.
I know how emotionally attached you are to the 92 team, and rightfully so.
I mean, just Scottie Pippen guards any one of those guys, locks them up. Any one of Scottie Pippen alone. Okay? Alone, by himself.
Okay, sure.
By himself.
Yeah, sure.
Explain to the folks what's going on. And you say you went to school in Montlake, right? Down the hill in Montlake. Cross the bridge there. I forget I forget what the name of that drawbridge is that crosses over 23rd. Is even in 23rd?
Montlake Bridge. Yeah.
Montlake Bridge.
Yeah.
Takes you into a university district right there. Now you guys are going to travel to Rutgers. You're going to have a game in Rutgers here pretty soon. You're going to have a game against Penn State. Like, this is going to be a divisional game. You're going to be playing Ohio State. Like, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about the Pac-12 just dissolving right in front of your eyes?
From all accounts, it's been happening for a while. People just haven't been, willing to admit the inevitable. When UCLA and USC left, it left the conference very vulnerable. And then Colorado with their weird move, I mean, just really sank the conference, for lack of a better word. And you might as well jump off a sinking ship, which is what Oregon and Washington did, being thrown a lifeline by Big Ten.
But Pac-10 not having any, seems like they should have implemented if once USC, I mean, I thought clearly is not the case now, but I thought they had some legal argument to keep USC and at least UCLA, because that's a state school receiving state funds in the Pac division, because they were receiving that state funds. They want to keep them on the West Coast for the most part. But clearly that wasn't the case. That didn't happen. they seem like they should have implemented some kind of buyout clause where you had to, if you want to leave the conference, you have to have some kind of buyout. They don't have every other conference has a buyout clause. They don't have a buyout clause, and therefore they just got pilfered.
Conference was poorly run the last 10 years or so, and as you well know, Cameron, those buyout clauses and those kind of things, they're not significant and don't make a difference once these type of movements are in place, in motion. They're just not enough of a deterrent to keep someone somewhere. They'll just pay.
But if they just pay it, but then that's money that goes back to the conference, that money that goes back to the various schools.
But it goes back to where? I mean, the gaping hole, the vortex that's left by SC and UCLA leaving, I mean, can't be filled with, a $40 million fine, let's just say.
So what happens to Washington State, Oregon State?
Well, nobody cares what happens to Wazoo. Nobody really actually cares. Nobody really actually cares what happens to the Beavers of Oregon State. Cal and Stanford.
Clearly, they don't.
They may be able to doggy paddle to some other conference, but hey, man,
doggy paddle to some.
All the big dogs had to leave, man. Y'all just left with whatever you guys can do, man. NAIA next year, I don't know.
Oh wow, you say NIA? Oh, come on, man.
Run the NAIA stuff, man.
Don't be so. Okay, let's be an objective sports commentator for a minute, Cleveland. Just act like you're an objective person. Take the Husky hat off right now. You just say nobody cares about the Huskies, about Wazoo and the Beavers. Come on. And you can't even fake like you have a rightful solution.
No, man, I don't know what they're gonna do, man. I mean, they gotta try and find a conference, somebody that wants them, and it's gonna pay them what they think they deserve. And hey, man,
you're cold.
I'm not privy to all of their options and opportunities, man. So sorry about I'm actually not even really sorry, man. It's just hey.
You're cold. See, they're from your state. You can't even have no passion for the teams in your state.
Man, I mean, hey, man. Good luck with him. Good luck.
He said
you and Boise State and Idaho and somebody else go join a conference somewhere.
The NAIA, you're wrong for that. you're wrong for that.
I mean, if they're not going to be able to get enough funds to carry a program, I mean, that's not. I don't. It's not my responsibility to find them some funds, man. I don't
know. He even said Cal and Stanford can dog paddle their way to somewhere. Are you going to? Will you talk to your guys at the Big Ten? Say welcome these guys in. Will you even do that?
We already got 18, man. I mean, how many more teams can the Big Ten really bring on? They made their decision already. Huskies are already taking way less than all the rest of the teams in the Big Ten. So hey, man, can't be bringing on stepchild, third cousin removed in Washington State, and
Wow, that's low. That's low for you Huskies. I thought you guys were more.
Well, hey, man. I mean, start a GoFundMe for those guys, man. Start a GoFundMe. Try and find a conference. So sorry.
You're cold, man. That's cold. That's cold.
So who are the winners and some people don't?
So who are the winners and losers of this? Of these mergers, is there a winner and losers? Like the coaches.
The only winners are the conferences that make more money on the television revenue. There's no winners other than that. I mean, the realignment doesn't make any sense geographically. It's going to be very difficult on the players. No one has really explained how it translates to all the other non-revenue sports. Only how it translates to the football.
And do they even care, really?
Yeah. So you're basically saying that in so many words, and some of these other schools in the Pac-12, suddenly, not to make light of it, have very strong teams in other sports that don't draw 100,000 people every game. And
well, so Stanford, that's the reason Stanford will get picked up, because the Olympic sports, like they're solid in Olympic sports. That's why they'll get picked up, whether it's by the Big Ten. Or it'll be a Big 20. They'll have to have the East Coast and West Coast divide of the Big Ten. They have to. They can't. they can't send UCLA, USC, Washington, Oregon. They can't send them to Rutgers for a volleyball game on Tuesday night, and then have them play a volleyball game on Thursday in Penn State. I mean, that they can't do that. I mean, if that were to happen, if they scheduled it that way, they're showing that they really don't care about the students at all whatsoever.
Well, sure, they don't care about the other student athletes because it's only about football. They haven't really even determined how the basketball thing is going to work. So if you haven't determined how those,
and that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It has to. They have to draw the line.
But by the time you get down to fencing and softball and some of those other ancillary sports, they do not have a clear initiative, and it doesn't start for another year. So, well, they can do.
They have to be drawing. They have to be drawing this down the line and saying the East Coast Division, West Coast Division. They have to. They have to. It doesn't make any sense any other way. It just doesn't make any sense any other way. And then they'll have their, their championship. I mean, whether is the championship going to be at the Rose Bowl, or the championship is going to be where it's going to be at Colorado Stadium, or the what do they call the Big House in Michigan? What do they call the Big House? Or is that the Horseshoe? Which one of the Big House or Horseshoe? Whatever. Is that going to be all of a sudden?
Ohio State, Big Houses in Michigan. Yes.
Are that going to replace the quote unquote Rose Bowl, if you will?
Well, to be determined. None of these things have been ironed out fully. Just the television contract for the football. That's all they know.
Well, I guess will they be making enough money to figure that out down the line? It's just wild. I can't imagine them having 3 or 4 different, try to make 4 different divisions. It's going to have to be a West Coast league in a East Coast league. That's the only way it could conceivably work. Are you caught up in the Messi mania, Cleveland? Messi's traveling the country. I mean, he's doing his thing out here.
I have not been caught up. I have seen that he hasn't lost, though. He seems to be continually being Messi, being a winner.
He got in his 4 games. He scored as many goals as the team's goal leader, 7, as he scored in 28 games. So this dude, I mean,
he is Lionel Messi for a reason. Yeah,
clearly he's getting it done. So I mean, we better jump on, and you better try to catch a game when they come to. See what's the team up in Seattle? Not the Storm, the Seattle Rain or whatever. What are they called?
Sounders.
Huh?
The Sounders, yeah.
Oh, it is the Sounders. Okay, you might well try to catch a game if shitty come that way. Cleveland, who had the better fight over the weekend? Ramirez and Anderson, or Jake Paul and Nate Diaz? What was the better fight?
Oh, I'm gonna go with the other one because I actually watched the Paul Diaz fight, and it was kind of.
I mean, Anderson got
it's what I figured out watching that fight is that the UFC guys, those guys aren't boxers, they're punchers. Because all of those old UFC fighters that supposedly were great boxers, they get beat up by Jake Paul. So Woodley did it twice, Anderson Silva, and now here comes Nate Diaz. And he's going to drag some other old fossil out of the UFC that was supposed to be a great striker in the UFC, and he's going to get knocked out too.
But, I mean, come on. Did Nate Diaz even train for the fight? Nate Diaz
looked incredibly untoned. He looked incredibly disengaged. Every once in a while, he kind of did some stuff. Yeah, man.
I mean, the way Paul's throwing out money, I might jump in the ring. I might put my hat in the ring for it. Let me tell you, I'll take 7-8 mil. To take a dive. I mean, the way he's throwing it out there. But Ramirez and Anderson, man, Anderson throwing down his gloves. I mean, throwing down a glove and a ball, like squaring up like he was training for Spence Crawford, and just get dropped on a punch that grazed the chin. Like he should be ashamed of himself. And he got suspended 6 games. He should just take the 6 games. Don't even appeal that. I wouldn't want nobody else to see that video. And I wouldn't even want nobody else to see the video. So, Cleveland, since you were partially right on the Crawford-Spence outcome, boxing fans want to know now, Cleveland, which fights you want to see. Which fights you want to see in boxing next. We got Canelo Charlo. Are you looking forward to that one at all?
Not really.
I mean, well, what you want to see? You want to see Haney Teofimo? You want to see Thurman Spence? You want to see Shakur Tank? You want to see Crawford Charlo? What do you want to see next?
I'd like to see Tank Crawford next, but I guess
Tank and Crawford. No,
I guess Pac and Tank is next best thing I can get to.
You think what's that?
I said I guess Pac and
Pac,
Tank is the next best.
Crawford is 147.
Right. Shakur and Tank. Yeah.
I mean, that'll be okay. I mean, I'll certainly tune into it. Shakur,
I mean, Charlo, we didn't got the right Charlo in the ring, so that's not a thing. And then Thurman and who would you say?
Thurman and Spence. You want to see Spence?
No, not really. I mean, who wants to see that fight? I mean, Errol just mop up Thurman and get what?
Get his confidence back.
Maybe it's confidence, but I mean, it doesn't really mean anything, right?
It doesn't mean a whole lot. He gets his confidence back, and maybe we see
pretty much a punching bag, a stepping, stone to the next big fight.
Yeah, maybe
Female and Haney. You already know how that's going to go. I mean, female's going to massacre that dude. So
you think so?
Really
wow. I mean, I don't know how that one would go, Haney and Timo. I don't know how that goes.
Yeah, female beats him up bad.
Beats him up bad.
I
mean, I think Shakur and Tank could be the best out of the fight. Crawford and Charlo, we have to wait for that one, considering Charlo is fighting. He's fighting Canelo, and Charlo I don't think Charlo really want that fight. If you hear him screaming about people putting him in with Crawford already, I don't think he wants that fight. So Kelnick breaks his foot after a strikeout a couple weeks ago, and then the Mariners go 8-2 in their next 10 games. Turns out they don't need him, huh? Turns out they don't need that dude. They go 8-2. Now they're close to 10 games over 500, 61-52. Look at the M's. The 6 games back. You still got to win in the West? Are we in the midst of their run right now?
I never said they were going to win the West, Cam. I said they would make the playoffs.
Oh, you don't want to admit to saying they're going to win the West?
Put words in my mouth. I never said they were going to win the West. I never said they were going to win a division. I said they would make the playoffs.
Is this their run right now to get them into the playoffs?
Well, I mean, you tell me, Cam. They've won 9 of their last 11, 10 of their last 12, 6 in a row. They're a game and a half out of the wild card spot with 45 games left. So, yeah, they're right in the thick of things.
And so I take it you really liked how Rodriguez kind of faked the whole crowd out by.
I mean, that was cool. That was a great catch. I know you're not really all into spectacular catches.
I mean, that wasn't a great catch. Come on, that was a 3
because it just happens all the time, right? So
Cleveland, that was a 3.
Well, that's not something that you're really impressed with. You know what, Cam? What I was really more impressed with is the way they went down to Los Angeles and whooped up on the Shotani Angels 4 straight games. Roughed him up when he was pitching and struck him out 2 times every game they played after that.
Well, the Angels
they beat the Angels up so bad. Cam, here's how bad they beat the Angels up. They have a 1% probability of making the playoffs.
The Angels are 3-7 of their last 10 games.
Okay. So after the Mariners,
you're not talking about Shohei. I mean, you're not talking about Shohei though.
And bit their jugular and just all the blood started squirting out and they just bled to death from 4 games. Yeah.
I mean, Shohei's still leading the league in slugging.
That's what was the most impressive so far of this. 10 out
Shohei still lead the league in slugging. Cleveland.
Well, that's great.
Let's not get too hurt.
That's great.
Let's not talk too much now.
He's slugging.
He's leading the league in home runs.
He's slugging his way to missing the playoffs for the 5th straight year. Slug away.
Cleveland. He's top 5 in OP,
Hey,
OBP.
don't stat me to death about Shotani. Okay, when he makes a playoff, then get back with me. Okay, like you always say, Cam. Until they get to 500, I don't really want to hear about them. Okay, until them cats get to 500, I don't really want you statting me to death about Shotani. Okay, until they make the playoffs, Cam, I don't really want you statting me to death about Shotani.
It's Shohei. It's Shohei. He's only the best. He's only the best player in all of baseball.
The pronunciation of somebody's name. What?
He's only the best player in all of baseball. He's the most exciting player in baseball in the last 100 years.
Can we agree that we don't talk about Shotani until they at least 500? Can we do that?
Oh, wow. The Mariners get to 500 and he got his chest out, fans. The Mariners get to 500.
Cam,
come on.
I lived up to the agreement,
So you don't want to talk about the guy who's in the top 10 in batting average, who's in the top 10 in hits, who's in the top 10 in home runs, who's the top 10 in RBIs, the top 10 in runs.
They're not 500. So can we agree to not chit chat about Shotani until they're 500 at least?
I mean, the one man can only do so much.
So is that a yes or a no? Cam?
The one man can only do so much.
Is that a yes or a no? As you said earlier, I had been muted from talking about the Seattle Mariners until they was 500. But you want to talk me to death about Shotani? Stat me to death about a team that's under 500, 12 games out of first place, 9 games out of the wild card. I mean, what are we talking about here?
One man can only do so much.
Okay, so clearly he's not doing enough. So
what more do you want from the guy?
To get his team to a winning record and into the playoffs.
The guy leads the league in home runs.
So Cam, can we
top 15 in ERA?
Not be talking about Shotani until this team is 500 at least?
Top 5 in strikeouts on the season. Then we're talking about major league. We're talking about the whole major league. And you just want to ignore what this guy is doing. You just want to ignore what this guy is doing. Man, I don't know, fans. You guys got to help me out on this. This is why baseball is such a hokey sport, man. One guy's killing it, and the team stinks at all. Cleveland just refused to talk baseball. Now he don't want to talk about the most exciting player in all of baseball right now. You don't even want to participate.
Can we agree to not talk about Shotani until that team has a 500 record?
My goodness, man. I mean,
it seemed to work out for you just fine. We was talking about the Seattle Mariners, but when it comes to your Los Angeles Angels and Anaheim, suddenly you have a different a different method of talking about a team or what, warrants the attention. What are we talking about?
The guy's only the best player in all of baseball. I mean, he's only the best player in all of baseball.
Suddenly you're all about the individual and not about the team. Wow, this is sure is a 180.
My goodness.
Usually it's the other way around.
My goodness. Okay, so Ariza, you called it Ariza. You said he's going to fall off. He's not going to hit 400. He's at 370 now. You did. He leaves the league in hits though after 116 games. So on this last, what we got? We got 50 games left, 45 games left in the season.
Roughly, yeah.
You got the Mariners making the playoffs?
I think the Mariners make the playoffs. Yes.
Does Ariza does he get to that 400 mark or no?
Arias will not hit 400 now.
What other story are you looking at? The Angels aren't making the playoffs. It was looking like the off season for them, and they might well be trying to get their investment dollars and how they're going to pay off for Shohei. They might have to call in Sony for that. Sony, PlayStation, Adidas. I don't know who they're going to call, but they're going to have to make some partnerships to pay this kid.
I'm interested to see if De La Cruz can get the Cincinnati Reds into the playoffs, and I'm also interested to see if the New York Yankees, with all that payroll, can make the playoffs.
I mean, where are the Yankees at? How far are they at?
Oh, they're way back there.
So how you think? Why do you think they can get it turned around?
Anaheim Angels range.
Why you think? How you think they can get turned around if they're not even in sniffing distance?
Well, I don't know. I mean, they're the Yankees. I mean, the mystique and all that.
I mean, yeah, that's all it is. Mystique,
this would be, I believe, the 13th consecutive year not making the World Series. So that's getting up there with one of the longest droughts in team history. So.
So that's what you want. That's what you're looking for. Can the Yankees make the playoffs? Huh?
And the Cincinnati Reds, yes. I mean, in addition to obviously the Mariners, I mean, that's really where the focus is.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on those storylines, and until the Angels become a 500 team again, then we can talk about the best player in all of baseball.
Okay. Well, who knows when that's going to be, Cam?
I mean, wow.
If ever. This might be the last show that we talk about Shotani.
He's tickled pink over there. He's tickled pink over there.
I mean, it's just reality. It's just a fact of how sports can be sometimes, Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, is that it? Is that how it goes? Your Mariners have found their way to 500 now.
They're actually they haven't found their way to 500. They're 9 games over 500, a game and a half out of the wild card spot.
Fans, those of you who watch the show, know that this guy had not been so boisterous about MLB talk all season long.
Oh boy, I've been willing to talk about it, but I've been muted and unable to do so because the Seattle Mariners at times have been flirting around 500. So they're
not flirting under 500.
Okay, well, okay. Given our criteria, Cam, we're definitely talking about them next week because they're so far ahead of 500 that they're not going to lose enough. They couldn't lose enough games to not be over 500 next week. How about that?
Oh my goodness gracious! Oh my goodness! This is where we end the show.
And the Shotani Angels will have to do something so miraculous to be over 500 to be able to talk about them. That's not going to happen.
He's tickled pink, fans. It's so funny how he got his chest poked out now that his team is over 500.
Been talking about the Mariners for quite some time. When able.
Fans, I want to thank you guys for tuning into the show. Appreciate Cleveland for being a part of the show. Got to give our man Eric Smith, cheer him. Be sure to check out Eric Smith, Eric D. Williams on Twitter, Eric D. Williams on Twitter, Eric Dub on Threads, Fox Sports NFL reporter. Give him a round of applause for being a part of the show. Also, give yourself a round of applause for being a part of the show, fans. Again, this has been week 252 of the Voice of the Fans podcast, and I want to end it with this quote. No work is insignificant. All labor that uplifts humanity has dignity and importance and should be undertaken with painstaking excellence. Cleveland, I'll repeat that for the people in the back. No work is insignificant. All labor that uplifts humanity has dignity and importance and should be undertaken with painstaking excellence. That's from the great Martin Luther King, fans. So I want to thank you guys again for being a part of the show. Thank you guys for tuning into Voice of the Fans podcast. We appreciate you guys. Also, you need any travel tips, got any travel plans, go ahead, hit us up. Tweet me at _ Voice of the Fans. That's @ on Twitter, X. I don't know. This is like McDonald's trying to change their name. You still going to call it McDonald's, right? This is like Staples Center trying to change their name to Crypto.com Arena. You still call it Staples. It was still called Staples Center, right? So Twitter, I don't know what you're doing, but it's still Twitter. Is I don't know who's referred to as an X quite yet, but hit me up on Twitter @ Voice of the Fans, @ Voice of the Fans. If you want some travel tips, some travel info, I got you guys. Hit us up @ Voice of the Fans and just put travel. You got any comments, what you want to talk about on the show? Should we be talking about Shohei Ohtani, even though the team's under 500? let me know on Twitter @_voice of the fans on Twitter, @_voice of the fans on Twitter. What's your thoughts on the Pac-12? What's your thoughts on this collapse of this disintegration of Pac-12? Should Washington be dragging Washington State into the Big Ten with them? Should they ask them to hold a seat at the aisle at the movies for them? Cleveland says no. He didn't even call WSU when they said they're making the move. He didn't even call those guys. He didn't send a flyer, didn't send a memo. He didn't say, yo, what's up? You need to look at this deal. He just said, we're out. Find your own way. Yeah, that's pretty cold. That's so much for a partner in the state. So much for that. Anyway, fans, again, hit us up at @_voice of the fans, @_voice of the fans. Let us know what you think about the Pac-12 just disintegrating to the 4-pack, if you will, and see what happens with Idaho, Gonzaga. Do they join the Pac-6 and make a West Coast conference, or whatever happens?
Colorado State, Willamette College.
He went to Willamette.
Chico State might be interested.
Oh my goodness! San Diego State finally gets a chance to join.
San Diego State thought they were going to jump in, and then everybody's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And then they had to jump back to their old conference. Just barely got back to that one. Lucky they got that spot back.
Oh my goodness! It's wild out here. It's wild, and we see these quote unquote big schools in the old Pac-12 don't even care about some of the disintegration. They're like, we got a spot. We might as well go and not rock the boat.
I think Portland State might be interested.
Oh, you see how he goes. Okay, fans, that's it now. That's it, fans. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Voice of the Fans. Thank you guys again for tuning in to the Voice of the Fans podcast and the heartless Washington Husky.
Seattle Pacific University maybe can jump in there.
See, that's it, fans. Okay, we're gonna check you guys out later.